Now, if you missed Thursday, some of this might be like, whoa, where would this come from? Just bear with me. I need to go on the PowerPoints or get notes from somebody. And I'm going to start us off just like I did Thursday with just numbers. I'm going to call this multiplying fractions. Multiplying fractions. And it looks like this. 5/8 times 3/2. 5/8 times 3/2. Now we saw this way back in the R chapter. Do you remember how you multiply fractions?
Cross.
Straight across. You don't want to make that difficult. Just straight across. So on top, 5 times 3 is 15. Over 8 times 2 is 16. Do those numbers have something in common that you could divide by?
No.
Technically 1, but no, that's as far as you can reduce it. So you do need to see, can you simplify the fraction? In this case, you can't. You just multiply straight across. These are the types of problems at the beginning of this homework that are non-calculator on your test. So remember, I told you, some is calculator, some is non-calculator. The ones that are just plain old numbers are the non-calculator.
You simplify before you multiply?
You could do that too.
I mean, which should you? Which should you?
Doesn't matter. Usually you want to simplify before you multiply so that way your numbers aren't huge. And then you have to sit and think, what number could go in there? That's the only reason I would do it before. But in this case, we could. Okay, let's say I had 7/12 times -5/6. 7/12 times -5/6. Again, I'm just putting that negative on top. It could go on top, it could go on bottom, or it could go in the middle. And again, you want to go straight across. So what would 7 times -5 give you?
-35.
-35. Over 12 times 6. 72. Again, the only numbers that can go into 35 are 7 and 5, but they can't go into 72.
So you wouldn't have simplified 12?
Couldn't.
Oh. Yeah.
Because you have to do it to both.
That means 35 and 72 are negative, or just?
No, just one. So it's either the top, the bottom, or out in the middle. You can write it either way. But if you put it on the top and the bottom, two negatives would cancel each other out, and the negative would be gone. So it either goes on the top and the top or bottom, or you can put it out in the middle. It doesn't matter where you put that.
But the whole problem is
That-
negative.
That's going to leave you with a negative decimal, right?
Yes.
You carry it up.
Yes.
But it is all 35 and 72, that whole thing is negative.
Negative, correct. All right. Now, if I had something like this, and again, it's just maybe how you learned it when you were younger. 3/4 times 8/5. You can always go straight across every time. That's fine, but you always have to simplify. Does anyone know another way? I know, Martina, you just said it. Does anyone know another way they could do this before going straight across?
Your 4 goes into 8.
Okay.
So it'd be 3/1 and 2/5.
Okay. We call it, and it's so messy, but I'll do it, cross canceling. You can only cross canceling, you only do the cross canceling during multiplication. So you can only cross cancel when you have multiplication. And you don't have to use this method. It's not wrong if you don't. It just makes your numbers a little bit smaller to work with. You would look at something on top and something on bottom. Notice I have a 4 here and an 8 up here. What number can go into both of them?
4.
4. So I would say 4 goes into 4 once. So that's my new number in the denominator. And 4 goes into 8 twice. And that's my new number on top. So then if I multiply straight across, I'm going to have 3 times my new number 2. It's going to give me 6. over 1 times 5, which gives me 5. If you do the cross canceling here, you don't have to simplify here because it's already done for you. And you can leave it as an improper fraction. If you had just gone straight across, you would have gotten 24 over 20, which then are bigger numbers, and you got to think, what number could go into both, which is 4, and you would still get 6 over 5. So you can do it either way. The only reason I use cross-canceling is so if my numbers get huge, I don't have to sit there and think of a number that can go into both. I like using the little but again, doesn't matter, however you learned it. Let's try something like this. Now this is a skill we learned Thursday. 4 4/5 times 3/4. 4 4/5 times 3/4. You have to make everything either an improper or proper fraction. You can't have a mixed number there. So with that first one, do you remember how you have to make it improper?
5 times 4.
Okay, 5
Plus
times
4.
4, which is 20, and then plus this 4 gives you 24, and what do you keep it over?
5.
5. So you have to change your mixed number to an improper fraction. This one's already done. It's just a regular proper fraction, so just bring it down. Do you see anything that you could cross cancel?
Yes.
The 4 and the 24. I know 4 goes into 4 once, and 4 goes into 24 6 times. So when I multiply straight across, I've got 6 times 3 is 18, over 5 times 1 is 5. Again, nothing in common. You can leave it as an improper fraction. But the main thing you got to remember here is this needs to be converted to an improper fraction. Do not leave it.
So the 18 over 5, you wouldn't want us to make that a mix?
You can, just one extra step, and if you get that part wrong,
Okay.
then you're going to get in trouble. All right, let's try one more. Just plain old numbers. Negative 2 2/5. And remember, you could put a dot. Sometimes they're going to put parentheses in here, so I'm going to show you it both ways. Negative 2 1/12. Now, I don't want you to be thrown off with all these negatives. Notice, when you're multiplying, we have a negative times a negative. What's our answer going to end up being? Positive. So you can just ignore the negative signs. You know the answer is going to be positive. So I'm not even going to take into account those negative signs because I know the answer at the end is going to be positive. So if I just cover up this negative sign, what would that be as an improper fraction?
12 over 5.
12 over 5. If you want to bring the negative down, you can, but again, you know it's going to be positive. Times, if you cover this negative up, what would that improper fraction be?
25 over
25 over 12. Okay. Do you see any cross canceling?
They both
ways.
Both ways, yeah, that's good. If you have the same, and this is very important for what we're doing today, if you have the same term, or same number, or same letter, or same binomial, whatever it is, on top and bottom, that's just going to equal 1. They just cross each other out. If you want to put little ones there, you can. And then going the other way, I know 5 can go into both of those numbers. So 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 25 5 times. So what is my number on top? 5. Technically, what's your number on the bottom? 1. But I know 5 over 1 is just 5. And I know it's going to be a positive answer.
So if it was a negative on the positive, then it would.
You could have ignored the signs and know it was going to be a negative. Because sometimes the negative's just in there. It's like, oh, no, it's so complicated looking. Well, if you know the two negatives make a positive, or you know the two signs make a negative, you know what the answer is going to be. So that's with your numbers. That's Dev 1, just making sure you know how to do the numbers. Now we're going to throw some letters in there. Still 6.4. A5 over B3 times B2 over A3. And you've kind of seen this, just not split up like that. Some of you might want to cross cancel the way it looks. I like with the letters only to squish them together first. So that way I only have one fraction to look at. On top I have an A5 and a B2. And on the bottom, if you want to put it in alphabetical order like this, you can. So if you want to put the A3 first, just so they line up, and then the B3. Doesn't matter which way you write them. And then this is a problem in chapter 2 that we have. Where do you have more A's at?
Top.
Top, how many more?
2.
2. Where do you have more B's at? On the bottom. And how many more do you have down there? And there is your final answer. You don't have to squish them. You could just kind of cross cancel in your mind, but sometimes it's easier to just look at one thing than having to do it separately. But all I did is just kind of squish these together and then squish those together. Let's try another one with the letters.